Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Joe and Josh Talk, The Walking Dead. I'm Joe,
I'm Josh.
and I first want to start off this episode by apologizing.
Yeah, we did try to put together a live stream for the mid-season finale. Unfortunately, we were not able to due to some technical problems. Was not for a lack of trying, but still, we are very sorry. Really wanted to deliver. Thanks to everyone who did contact us, though, and
Right.
we appreciate your feedback and everything. We did try our best, but still, sorry again. And for those of you who are tuning in to listen to our recording here as we're talking about the episode tonight. We do appreciate you checking this out. We do love the interaction. We're all fans of this show.
Right.
It's a phenomenon around the world, and it's always great to be
Absolutely.
able to talk to people about this awesome show and this amazing episode that we had tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great episode.
Yeah.
It was, and we have a lot of things to talk about.
Oh, yeah, a lot to cover. Powerful episode, man. And like we thought, a lot of things really came to a head in tonight's episode. Um, we thought that there were probably a lot of things on our characters' minds, things that they were thinking, that we were thinking, and they weren't saying. And tonight we got to hear a lot of that. And, themes of tonight's episode being coming together and being there for the people you care about. And really, tonight we saw the power of what happens when a leader, be it a good leader or a bad leader, has a group of people behind them who supports them.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's one thing that you definitely have to have as far as in a group. You know, and I guess we've seen that kind of come out to tonight, pretty much. And so our key points that we want to discuss tonight are, um, I know that Daryl finally, we've seen him break free of the sanctuary. Also, Rick got his balls back. Um, Michonne had a good moment there,
Very good.
and we kind of seen the regroup of the group
Yeah.
pretty much at Hilltop, and now Rick is saying, he told Maggie, "Hey, listen, you were right from the very beginning, and I just didn't listen.
Right.
We need to fight back."
Right.
So therefore, it's like very all this stuff, man. Very powerful episode. So we're going to talk about all that, and Josh, just lead off with that, man. Like what I guess the first moment that we want to talk about is
Well, basically, when we come into the episode, we have Negan in Alexandria,
exactly
and it's always a tense situation when Negan is around. He's setting the table. He's setting up a meal with Olivia, who's there with Judith, and with Carl, and they're waiting on Rick to get there. And the theme here is that even though Negan is this outlandish, over-the-top sociopath, he's acting like what he's doing is normal. He's acting like it is legitimate. And we heard that theme a bit more when the gentleman from the kingdom was talking to Morgan and Carol. He's like, we have peace with the saviors now, but it probably won't, keep being that way.
right,
And we had other people talking about this, about they're not going to keep their end of the deal. Things are going to keep getting worse because it's not a legitimate agreement.
right,
Obviously, we know they are not paying for services. This is not something contractual that they've all agreed to do. They are being plundered and preyed upon. And
right,
Negan is having a field day pretending that this is legitimate. And one thing I really liked was the scene where Rick and Aaron have to go across this lake and fight against all these walkers in the water. Their boat is getting turned over. And, the show always finds new, cool little scenes to do like that.
right.
And that's something we hadn't really seen, I guess, in a while. A good scene with water and things like that. So just a really kind of spooky scene. And of course, they're going to find more stuff for the Saviors. And another great thing about tonight's episode was we got to see multiple character groups. And one thing I thought was kind of interesting was when we go to Morgan and Carol, neither of them seem to want to take the approach that the kingdom does. The kingdom is saying we need to fight back against the saviors now while we have a chance.
Right.
Um, Whereas Morgan is saying he doesn't want to kill those people. Of course, that goes against his moral code. And Carol is saying, I just don't want to get involved with this anymore. So
Right.
I don't know. It's like, will they fight or not?
I don't know because that brings up an interesting point. I mean, there comes a point like with Morgan, you got to understand that that's your moral code.
Right.
But in situations, you have to put that moral code aside for the better of what the group,
Right.
the community. You have to do that. if you want to survive.
Right.
And also Carol, well, we know her story. She was pretty much just done. She's just looking for a way out. She don't want to deal with anybody anymore. She just wants to be a loner. She
Right.
just wants to be left alone. But I think once they finally find out what the Saviors have done, once they do reunite with Rick and the group,
Right.
what happened to Abraham, Glenn, and everybody, I think that's probably just going to flip a switch.
Yeah.
And we could probably see them join in on the fight.
Absolutely. And another thing we talked about was really great to see Daryl back in action tonight.
Oh, God, yeah.
And going along with the theme of Negan being this leader that people kind of rally behind because they are afraid, they submit to him. There's a scene where, Daryl, he's very crafty and escaping and everything. Still no real confirmation, I don't think, about who helped him escape. We had a couple theories, but he ends up getting outside, and there is Fat Joseph, who we'd seen a couple times, and who had been one of the people who proudly said, I am Negan. He participated in the group beatdown of Daryl. And Daryl sees him, and Daryl knows if any one of Negan's people know that I'm escaping, they're going to come after me.
Right.
And Fat Joseph all of a sudden is like, oh no, I won't say anything. And he's like, I'm just trying to get by.
By eating a sandwich.
Exactly. And Daryl's whole thing is Daryl with Rick, the difference between Rick's group and the others is like, yes, Rick's group may have done some things that were not the smartest. They may have done some very aggressive things at times, but it's been a long time since Daryl had the mentality of, well, I have to spite other people and cause them to fail, so I can get by. That was back before the show even started, because we had a little bit of dialogue from Merle at one time when he was telling Daryl, I bet you didn't tell them we were going to rob that camp blind.
Right.
But Daryl doesn't have that mentality anymore, and he's like, I can't agree with the mentality that he has of, I'm just trying to get by robbing other people. So Daryl goes a little bit Negan.
Negan style,
yeah.
Man. He's like, I think he picked up a few moves from Negan, and he just pretty much with a lead pipe, just kind of just destroyed.
And that was
Fat Joseph.
That was so much pent up aggression from everything Daryl had to go through and see. That was just him unloading, and that's when he met up with Jesus, and the two were able to escape, which was another huge thing because now we have Daryl back.
We do have Daryl back, and I just want to touch base back on the scene with Fat Joseph. The line that he said, that was a powerful line.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not about getting by.
Yeah.
It's about taking it all.
Yeah.
So that speaks where Daryl's mindset is at now.
Yeah.
You think that he might just have a little bit of Negan mindset now after what he's been through?
Yeah, before this whole arc happened with him being kidnapped and everything and them really getting into it with the Saviors, if you remember, Daryl was kind of becoming, I guess you could say, more open to interacting with people, and I think to a degree he still kind of is, but he had this mentality of, remember, he tried to bring Dwight back to Alexandria originally.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Saying, I'm from a place where people are, the way they were and all this stuff. And now he's kind of realizing that he needs to have that killer instinct back because he was always kind of a fighter.
Right.
But I think now, like you said, with the other characters, it's the same with Daryl. This whole situation has just kind of lit a fire underneath
them. Right, exactly. And of course, okay, we're going to jump back to Negan being in Alexandria. All right. The nerve of this guy.
Yeah.
We've seen now he's clean shaven.
Yeah.
Okay, he went to Rick's home. He pretty much, just took reign over it.
He used the man's razor, man. You don't do that.
He used the man's razor to shave his face, and then all of a sudden, let's go play pool in the backyard.
Yeah.
While Carl is there.
Right.
He's torturing. Well, not torturing, but trying to what's the word that I'm looking for? Play mind games on Carl, pretty much trying to intimidate, and also use Judith.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of mental warfare.
Yeah.
Even when he's not physically hurting anybody, he's still that wild card that's there. That anytime he's around, he knows that everybody around him who's not a follower of his is completely living in fear.
Absolutely, just because of how big his group is.
Right.
It's not. Now let's get this straight. Negan, yes, he is a bad what.
Right.
I mean, he is. But Negan wouldn't be as powerful. I don't think he would be Negan if it weren't for the following that he has.
Right. The theme we had tonight with all the characters coming back together is, all eyes have been on Rick this season, about Rick, just being completely broken down, torn down, and dominated mentally by Negan. And the interesting scene when Rick and Aaron come back from
Right.
their run, they get confronted by the Saviors who think that the note that Aaron found in the supplies was written for them, and they brutally beat him down. Rick is unable to do anything, and we're seeing now the reason why Negan is able to terrorize so many people. It's not just that he himself is this imposing, scary figure, which he is, but he has legions of people who believe in him and who are willing to follow his orders
Right.
and fall in line. And that makes, his personality that much more dangerous because it's that much more
Right.
far-reaching. And every time he comes to their community, he just has tons of people who are ready to fight. They have guns, and
Right.
if things don't go their way, it's bad news for everybody. And we kind of really saw that too. And let's talk about Spencer.
Okay, let's talk about that.
So over the last few episodes, we really got to hear a lot from Spencer. And Spencer's in a unique position because, as he mentioned, before Rick came along, his mom was in charge of Alexandria. And you could easily make an argument that back then things were a lot better.
Yes.
They hadn't dealt with the wolves yet. They hadn't dealt with the massive herd yet and all that that happened. But the interesting thing is that Spencer seemed to blame a lot of what was going on Rick's leadership. He would talk about it, and whereas Rick would just say, well, this is what we have to do, we do it now and we get some sort of life, Spencer would always kind of throw off on Rick, say it's Rick's fault. And Spencer tries to talk to Negan when Negan is in Alexandria. He tries to go talk to Negan and say, this is who I am. My mom used to be in charge of this place. And he really tries to win Negan's trust. He tries to start a relationship with Negan.
Right.
And I don't know, in some ways you could say, well, maybe he was trying to take a diplomatic approach, but I think in other ways he's kind of just trying to look out for himself in a lot of ways.
I think he is because of the fact that you got to think in his mentality, like, okay, my mom, she was leader of this place. I'm entitled to this.
Right.
I should be the leader.
Right, heir to the throne.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, sorry, man, we're not back in the medieval days, where that
Right.
works. It's like, sorry, and you got to think, he, before Rick and them came along and stuff, his type, he could probably lead the group.
Right.
But the thing that Rick has over him as a leader, Rick knows how to, survive.
Exactly.
He knows what it takes to survive in this world, and Spencer just frankly doesn't have a clue.
Right.
Which kind of proves out because when he tries to approach Negan,
Yeah.
and he tries to persuade Negan, hey, man.
Over a pool game.
Yeah, over a pool game. That, hey, I'm your best bet, and pretty much Negan shut that down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Not only at first was Spencer basically saying, I understand what you're doing, as if trying to build rapport with Negan. He's even saying, like, Negan's talking about wanting to play pool. Oh, there's a pool table over there. Now even saying, there's a pool table over there, giving them resources from Alexandria, almost trying to work for Negan. And we've seen a pattern with Negan, even though he has been kind of all over the place mentally. He seems to respect people who try to fight back a bit.
Yep.
You could easily make an argument that the reason he chose Abraham was because Abraham kind of bowed up to him at the start of the season. He kind of straightened up because Abraham wasn't scared. And maybe that intimidated Negan a bit. And he's even said when Carl and Daryl, were standing up to him, obviously he didn't let it slide, but he respected that more than he respected Spencer saying, oh, put me in charge of Alexandria. And Negan's whole thing is he's asking him, Negan's like, I wanted power over this group, so I killed people. And I told you guys, if you didn't do what I said, I'd kill more people. He's like, if you wanted to take over, why wouldn't you just kill Rick?
Right.
And, Negan realized that Spencer didn't have guts.
Yeah, he didn't have guts.
And that led to the brutal death, sudden, and we kind of thought this was coming.
Yeah.
The show kind of follows the source material in certain ways, and we kind of thought that this was coming, and just a brutal death scene there in front of everybody in Alexandria. And this is right when Rick and Aaron have returned, and Aaron's getting beat up, and they come back and see Spencer has been just brutally killed. Really paints a picture of who Negan is, what this group is all about.
Absolutely. And then Rosita,
Yeah.
she after seeing that, she's like, now this is my moment. But unfortunately, it's interrupted by Lucille.
Right.
And, well, Lucille saved Negan, and now Negan's like, you just tried to kill me.
Right.
So guess what? Now one of you have to die.
Right.
And unfortunately, I guess you can call her his left hand woman.
Right.
I don't know. It's,
Right, yeah, right.
right. She just freaking boss and just turns around, shoots Olivia
Right.
like right in the face, and kills her instantly. So sad way for Olivia to go out.
Yeah,
but
very unexpected there too.
But that was the cost of Rosita's, what's the word that I'm looking for?
You know, her she attempted to retaliate, and she was having a conversation with Father Gabriel. Father Gabriel was telling her, we need to wait for a moment. It has to be at the right time.
Right.
And obviously, she couldn't take it anymore after what happened to Abraham. What happened on that night. She tried her best to kill Negan, and Negan managed to survive. And that's another element we saw, which Eugene had told her at the start. She's like, I don't mind dying for this. He's like, we don't know that it's going to be you, because that's how Negan operates. He's just that crazy and that unhinged. And even after the fact of, they killed one of their people, Olivia got killed, unfortunately, and then Negan says he's not finished. He wants to know who made the bullet. And immediately, to her credit, Rosita's saying, I made it, and Negan automatically saw through that. He's like, no, I know you're just trying to take the blame, but he's like, I want to know who made it. And, this is another thing. Negan is, his entire gimmick is he and his group are looking for people who can produce for them.
Right.
So now, we've seen that even though Daryl has escaped, now the Saviors have Eugene.
Yep.
And that is a big problem, because they're going to force Eugene to make ammo, to make things for them. So I guess in a way, Eugene kind of is becoming Negan's Milton. How the governor had, the governor had his own scientist, smart member of his administration there. Eugene is becoming that, unfortunately. But so Negan lost a person, he gained a person. But the big question is, what's Negan's reaction going to be now when he gets back and sees that Daryl has escaped?
Well, I think he's going to flip off the handle, really, and then he's going to come back for more.
Right.
So that's just my prediction.
Right.
We'll have to wait until February.
Right.
But the agonizing pain of the wait, but, it is what it is. But, yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Okay, so we're jumping back into, where we're going to talk about Maggie.
Yeah.
Maggie, we can pretty much, we were talking about this earlier, we can pretty much assume that she is a leader now.
Right.
Just because of the influence that she's had over that community.
Right.
So.
And it's very symbolic too. She is expecting, and she's kind of in a way bringing new life to that community, both literally and figuratively. She is pregnant at this point, and she is, they are all trying to watch out for her there. They all understand. So you get the vibe that even though Gregory is not the most personable leader, that most of the people at the hilltop are good. We kind of got the vibe at first that when they asked Rick and his group to take out the Saviors, that maybe they did some sort of dirty deal, but now we know that they're mostly good people. And now they have a formidable leader in Maggie.
Yeah, Maggie, and that's going to be interesting because, why? She's not, going to bow down to Negan and the Saviors because, not after what they did to Glenn. And she's ready to fight back. She was since the beginning. That's what we were talking about at the beginning of this episode. Rick didn't listen, but now he's listening. So.
Right. And a lot of screen time for Michonne tonight as well. Not only did we see her find the Savior's hideout, so now we have multiple people in Rick's group who have a drop on this place, who know where it is, who know a bit about the layout, the location, and all this stuff. So now they're getting information. And another interesting scene is we kind of got the same spiel from the woman who Michonne was holding at gunpoint, as we did from Fat Joseph, where they had the idea of, well, this is just how things are, whereas he was like, I'm just trying to get by. She was telling Michonne, whatever you're trying to do, you can't do it. Your best bet is to just leave, sink this car to the bottom of the lake, and all this stuff. So these people at the same time are, they're, I guess you could say in a lot of ways guilty by association, because they do act on Negan's orders, but a lot of them are rallying behind him because they have kind of submitted to him. And it's almost at this point now where it's like they are working for him on his side to victimize more people. And that goes back to the speech that Aaron gave to Rick, where he's talking about, your loved ones, they're still here, their hearts are still beating, and whatnot. The same deal with Negan, people rallying behind him, strengthening him. You find Rick, who's drawing strength from Michonne, and you see at the end where the group is kind of back together again. They have the key members back, and we have more people involved, more communities involved, and their numbers are increasing. And now they have, like we said, knowledge of the place. So really coming together, and really good to see everything in place for what seems to be a very eventful second half of season 7.
Yeah, most definitely. And we seen at the end of the episode.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and say spoiler alert.
Right.
Okay, because this was actually more towards the comic side, and I believe the guy that we seen in the tree spying, we want to take a good guess that's probably one of the Whisperers.
Right. It's getting about that time for them to start bringing the Whisperers into the show, and this is the next big group that comes into the comics after the arc with the Saviors, and when the community start fighting. Again, we're finding out this is a bigger world, and just as the Saviors are this crazy type of group that we've never seen before, so are the Whisperers. I think if this is indeed them, which it seems like it's kind of leaning to what it is, it's going to be a major factor in the second half of season 7.
Absolutely. And before we kind of wrap things up here, we have a big announcement to make.
Oh yeah,
big announcement that we've been teasing on the page for over a week now, and that is the date and time that Jordan Woods Robinson will be on the show, and we're going to go ahead and let that loose. He will be on the show. We're going to do a special recording Wednesday, December 14th. We're going to be doing our interview with him around 8 or 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We look to have that up later on that evening. But we're really excited. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. But this is going to do it for Joe and Josh Talk The Walking Dead, and we will catch you next time.